Hi there, this is Good Morning Transfer. 7 days remain in what has been quite a remarkable window once again. Chelsea have dominated it so far. Will they continue to do so? Well, on today's show, we've got 3 Premier League managers to bring you. Arne Slot is coming up live shortly, as is Mikel Arteta and Eddie Howe. We've also got loads to debate as Jadon Sancho's future looks pretty unclear at Manchester United. Don't forget, if you're out and about, you can keep up to date with all of the latest transfer news. Just head to our dedicated Transfer Centre blog, scan this QR code on the screen right now. OK, let's get straight to Arne Slot's press conference.
How do you manage the nerves? Are you a nervous manager?
I hope they are twice as loud as the Ipswich crowd, because the Ipswich crowd was really, really, really loud. So I'm hoping the fans can be twice as loud then as the Ipswich ones. That would be a big help for us. But no, I'm not nervous at all. Certainly not at this moment, because I'm in the middle of preparation, prepare the team for Sunday, and actually, no, nerves are not there. No.
Not even at 4:25 on Sunday?
No, it wouldn't be a good thing. If you've got nerves, then probably you don't trust what you did before. You just don't trust your team. And I trust what we as a staff do during the whole week to prepare the team in the best possible way. And I trust the team a lot as well, again on Sunday.
I know you've been asked in recent weeks about new signings, and obviously you've been reluctant to talk about them. Mamardashvili, is that a deal that's done or very close to being done?
I think you know already the answer. So if a deal is done, then you will hear from us. Until that moment, we don't speak about transfers or players that are not ours.
You don't seem worried at all by any lack of activity?
No, because I trust the team. And I've said many times before, I inherited a real good team, a team of many young players as well. And I think we all know that especially young players can develop at the ages they're on at the moment. So we just try to work as hard as we can with them. And we trust them a lot, and they've proven last week that they earned this trust, and I'm hoping that they show the same on Sunday again.
Good luck. Enjoy the day.
Thank you. I will.
Just going on from that theme, there was such a difference in terms of the first half performance versus the second half performance. How do you feel you are getting on in terms of being able to explain to the players what it is you want from them, and then buying into that?
I think we're on a good track, if that's the way to say it. So but we have to understand that some of them are only here for 3 weeks, and there's quite a large part of our group is with us for 3 weeks. So and it's not only about us; it's also about the opponent, what they bring into the game. And I think I said it before that Ipswich put a lot of energy in the first half to make it really difficult for us, and or we stepped up, or Ipswich were not able to keep bringing the same energy in the second half. And I think it was a bit of both. And we got a bit more space, and then you can see how well these boys can play. But there's still a lot of work to do. But it was a good first step, especially the second half.
And in making substitutions at half-time, when you look at the quality of the bench that you've got, it must be great to see those options that you have. But in making sure that you are not afraid to make substitutions, are you partly learning more about the squad that you have, but also trying to create some competition?
Oh, I'm learning every day still about these players, about the individuals, and also how they cooperate with each other. So, for me, the last week was not only important on Saturday, the Sunday was also really important, because I learned and saw there that the ones that didn't play on Saturday were able to bring a really good training session in on Sunday. And I think that is that's a really important thing for a team as well, because we all know that we're going to need many of them during the season for a lot of game minutes. And they brought in a really good training session on Sunday. And that will help them and us for the rest of the season. And yes, I am still learning new things about the players, which is normal, because like I just with some of them I only work for 3 weeks, so still seeing new things from them.
Arne, how's Joe Gomez? Do you feel like his head's in the right place for this weekend?
Yeah, it's been in the right place for 3 weeks, so He's worked really hard since he came back, but he didn't play a lot at the Euros. When he came back and in the first sessions he couldn't train the whole session, so we had to manage his load a bit, and that was also the reason why he wasn't in the team last Sunday. But this week he had a good week, so in terms of load, how much he could do with the team. So he's one of the players that I see new things from and learn things what I see from him, also combined with other players. So it's been a good week for him and for us till now.
And the club have done some notable business with Brentford this window. Just wondering how much admiration you have for their model and how they go about things on the pitch as well.
For Brentford, you mean? I think they brought in two really talented and good players. And then you could ask yourself the question, why do they leave? Now, the both of them have played a lot of minutes last season, and I think the both of them wanted to continue that journey of playing time. And I think they were able to play for us, but there's so much competition in the positions they play that they wouldn't play every minute of every single game. And then it was a good deal. It's a real good deal for us, and I think it's a good deal for Brentford, and it's also a good deal for the players. So everybody happy, unless they do too well on Sunday.
Do you admire the way Brentford play as well as
you can see that their manager is there for a long time already. They in the last game against Crystal Palace, they could play a 4-4-2 and could play a 5-3-2, so they can change systems within a game. And I think that's hardly impossible if you work with a group for 3, 4 or 5 weeks, let alone maybe even after a year. It's still not possible because it's so difficult to bring the best out of them in one system. So if you can play two systems with them, you have to make the conclusion that Thomas Frank is doing a real good job over there for a lot of years already, and they played a real good first game as well as a good pre-season. So it's going to be a challenge for us on Sunday again to play.
Oh, great to get the thoughts of Arne Slot there. Don't forget, we have got plenty more Premier League managers for you. We have got Mikel Arteta coming up at 9:30, and then a bit later on, Eddie Howe as well. It's all happening today. I've got two updates to bring you from Ipswich as well. Jack Clarke is having a medical ahead of his move from Sunderland. That deal is for an initial 15 million plus performance-related add-on, so that could take the fee up to £20 million. Elsewhere, paperwork is still being finalised on Armando Broja's move from Chelsea to Ipswich. Like Clarke, Broja's unlikely to be registered by midday. OK, I'm going to bring the guys in now. We've got Sam Abasaki, Dave Reed and James Savundra on the panel today. Welcome along. Been waiting patiently. It was a good listen, Arne Slot, wasn't it? He speaks really well, like him, really honest. It's nice to listen to him. But we're going to move on to Arsenal now. They have agreed a deal in principle with Real Sociedad to sign Mikel Merino. We've seen this one coming, haven't we? The fee is in the region of £32.6 million. This is made up of an initial fee of £28.4 million and then a further 4.2 in performance-related add-ons. Why has it taken so long to get to this point?
I think Arsenal are in a position where they weren't desperate for that position. Obviously, we know that they've got midfielders that can play there. They've got versatile fullbacks that can play there as well. But I think this is a position for strengthening the squad rather than being desperate for him to, come in. Obviously, we know his strengths. We know his similarities to Xhaka, who was such a key player for them in the last few years. But I think it was Arsenal not trying to almost jump the gun in a sense, especially when he had 1 year left on his contract, his age. They knew how important he was to their squad over the last few years and how important he was to their team. But at the same time, because of all those factors, I think it was just them proving, OK, cool, we're in a position of power. We know that the player wants to come here. We know that we've been challenging for the title for the last few years. So I think it makes a lot of sense for Arsenal. Obviously, he missed pre-season, but he's already almost a seasoned professional. We've seen what he done at the Euros, the important goal that he has, and I see him slotting straight in, to be honest.
Where do you think Arteta will fit him in, guys?
Well, he's a versatile midfielder. He can play as a deep-line playmaker, but we've seen him to brilliant effect as a number 8 now because Real Sociedad have had Martin Zubimendi doing such a brilliant job as a holding midfielder. And as Sam said there, Arsenal have struggled a little bit to fill the void left by Granit Xhaka in terms of the left side of that midfield three. Kai Havertz was used at the start of last season, but he's excelled so much now as a as a central striker. And Declan Rice has really showed what he can do in advanced areas as a box-to-box midfielder. But now with the options that Arsenal have across that midfield line, it does give Mikel Arteta the opportunities to rotate. You fear for the minutes for the likes of Fabio Vieira and Jorginho and Thomas Partey may have a slightly lessened role, I think, now with Mourinho coming in, because what's fascinating is he played alongside Martin Odegaard on loan for a season when Odegaard was at Real Sociedad on loan. They combined really well there, and a few years on, you just wonder what they can do together. So I think it's a case of somebody who can slot in straight away as a starter, but also it's just giving Arsenal those options. We've seen them over the course of the last few years under Mikel Arteta and Edu. They've been signing players in defensive areas, in midfield areas. They're not signing many strikers or wide attacking midfielders. They're really trying to build those foundations, increase that strength in competition for places in that midfield, just to give them that extra percent as they try and close the gap on City once more.
It feels to me like physicality is one of the key things now when Premier League clubs are trying to make transfers and identifying players. I think we've seen it with Manchester City, and I think Arsenal are following suit in terms of signing big guys who can win physical battles in the air and also ground duels as well. And I wanted to pick out some of Arsenal's latest signings from the last couple of windows, and you will see Mourinho is obviously starred, as it's not yet to be confirmed, but Calafiori 6'2", David Raya 6 foot, Declan Rice 6'1", Kai Havertz 6'3", poor old Urian Timber at the bottom. Tells everyone he's 6'2", but he's actually a bit like me. But he's actually 5'9".
Taller than us, isn't he? Unfortunately.
But I think it just continues the trend of big players who are going to be important in both boxes as well, not just attacking set pieces, but defending set pieces. And Mourinho, that's one of his strengths as well, being good in the air. We've seen that in La Liga and at the European Championships as well.
Both title challengers signing midfielders, so Mikel Mourinho at Arsenal and then Ilkay Gundan at Manchester City. Which player do you think is going to have the most impact?
See, I think it's going to be Mourinho. I really do. Really? I think Gundogan is like a cherry on top of the cake, almost. That little bit of stardust that Manchester City know all about, and they can bring him in. But I just think the way Arsenal have reinvented their left-hand side, I think Mourinho's going to have such a huge impact. And we saw at key moments last year, effectively, Arsenal's title challenge and Champions League campaign faltered over the space of 4 days. They were beaten at home by Aston Villa and they were beaten in the Champions League by Bayern Munich. And you look back and think about those games. Gabriel at the front post missed the challenge for Leon Bailey's goal for that game at the Emirates that they went on to lose. And then Kimmich won a header in the box at the game at the Allianz Arena. Those are key moments. Those are key players. And I even think at the game at the Emirates against Bayern Munich, Kivior missed the tackle. Sane went on to win a penalty. I think Mikel Arteta has identified those key moments, big games. This is how tight and marginal top-level football is. Manchester City are scoring 90-plus points every season. It comes down to knockout games in the Champions League. It's big moments like that. And Mikel Arteta has looked at it and tried to fix those key moments. And I'm using the word fix very loosely because it's not really fixing, because they've got amazing players there anyway. It's just that little level above that they've tried to identify this summer and improve on, and that's why I think Mourinho is going to be one of the biggest impacts over Gundogan.
I think he'll be a good impact and a big impact for Arsenal. But when you look at Gundogan, what he'd done in previous years for City, how important he was for Barcelona as well. It's not like he's dropped off in form or standards. He still has the high standards that he had at Manchester City, and we saw them linked with Bruno Guimaraes. We saw loose links of Eberechi Eze. He's almost a player that can do both. We've seen Gundogan play everywhere for City and do those roles perfectly. When you're looking at strengthening the squad, that is the type of player you bring in. But because almost we didn't see it coming, it's like maybe that's why you're underestimating the impact that he can really have. He can walk straight into that squad anywhere Pep wants him. Someone that knows his system so well, someone that demands respect. He's a leader as well. And the teams that are in the Premier League, they know the impact he's had as well. So I think he just edges it just because of his familiarity to the league.
Do you want to have the deciding vote?
I think Mourinho will play more minutes than Gundogan this season.
The question was impact, not minutes.
I think both will slot in fairly seamlessly. Gundogan having spent 7 seasons. Come on, Manchester City.
You got
I think
Gonna have to
Mourinho
rush you. We
will
need
be
an
the one.
answer.
Mourinho. 2-1. 2 on Arsenal.
Sam?
That's what I hope it'll end this season.
Okay. We got a draw.
Nobody asked me, but I'm with Sam. OK, we're going to stay with Arsenal. We're going to come on to Aaron Ramsdale, because Southampton are preparing to make a loan bid for him. Arsenal's preference is to do a permanent deal for Ramsdale, or at least a loan with an obligation to buy. Wolves have held talks for the goalkeeper. They're exploring a loan with the option to buy. James, why do Southampton need Ramsdale?
So
Their
number 1 goalkeeper, Gavin Bazunu, he was out at the back end of last season and he won't be available to play again until 2025. So it means that Alex McCarthy, who was actually out of contract in the summer, he signed a contract extension. He is the number 1, it seems, for the foreseeable future. And that feels like an area where Alex McCarthy has been a great servant to Southampton over the course of the last few years, but he has been in and out of that squad over the course of that period as well, under different managers. And it feels like if they could bring in Aaron Ramsdale, with respect to Alex McCarthy, Aaron Ramsdale is a level above where Alex McCarthy is. And it would make sense for Aaron Ramsdale to join Southampton. Wolves is the other option he has there, but I think Southampton could do with somebody like Aaron Ramsdale to steady the ship, and it would be a great opportunity for him. Another note on this, Ramsdale was actually at Wembley for the playoff final when Southampton beat Leeds, because his best friend, David Brooks, was on loan at Southampton last season from Bournemouth, and their best mates. He was dressed as Hagrid in the Southampton end of the same. So I think Southampton fans would clearly welcome him if he was to join.
Where do you think would be a good move for him?
I think this is a good move for him, to be honest. I think it makes sense in terms of him playing week in, week out. He needs to be in a team that, trusts his ability and almost not prove to everyone what he's really about, because we know what he's about. But where David Raya came in, everyone started questioning his strengths and saying, this is what David Raya is better at, and almost didn't appreciate what Ramsdale done for Arsenal and Arteta during that period of them getting to that place of being in the Champions League and challenging. So, he was in the team of the year in that season as well. So I think just playing week in, week out, build your confidence. They've obviously got a leader in him as well. He talks to his defence, he can play out from the back. And I think this is a place where he can prove that, having that amount of shots on him, at Sheffield United, I think one of the seasons he faced one of the most shots in the league, so that doesn't bother him too tough. So, yeah, I think this is a great move for him.
We've got one more line to bring you from Arsenal. Nottingham Forest are in advanced talks over the signing of Arsenal forward Eddie Nketiah. The total fee is understood to be in the region of £30 million. We'll keep you across that one, of course. Plenty more to bring you. A quick line from the Championship before we get to a break. Jonathan Rowe is undergoing the second part of his Marseille medical this morning. This is a loan with an obligation to buy. It's worth £17 million. Right, it is getting close to 9:30 when Mikel Arteta will be speaking to the media. We're going to bring that to you live. And before that, we'll discuss Jadon Sancho and will he remain a Manchester United player before the deadline. Stay with us here on Good Morning Transfers. Hi, welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. Right, Juventus are trying to sign Manchester United forward Jadon Sancho. Talks over personal terms, not thought to be a problem. It's thought to have taken place already, so that's all fine. Juventus trying to do a deal at the start of the window, but they couldn't meet the valuation. Dave, have we got to this point?
It's been quite a long time, and I feel like we've been talking about Jadon Sancho quite a lot. We've got 7 days to go. He's still a Manchester United player. This all goes back to pretty much a year ago this week when he made his final or last appearance in the Premier League, at least for Manchester United against Nottingham Forest. And then there was the fallout when he was left out of the squad. I think it was for the Arsenal game. And there was a disagreement between Sancho, Erik ten Hag, meant that he was out of the picture firmly. And then he went on loan, of course, to Borussia Dortmund in that January transfer window. I think, for all intents and purposes, you would say that move was a good one for him. He obviously played in the Champions League final. Back to Manchester United this summer. Question marks were, could Borussia Dortmund afford the fee? The answer was no. Back to United, and then we learned last month that he had pretty much buried the hatchet with the manager, and he was back in the plans for pre-season, played a bit of a part. Missed the opening weekend this year with, I think Erik ten Hag said it was an ear infection. And now we're talking about him again and possibly leaving the club with Serie A a possible destination.
So, yeah, we know that he's been reintegrated. But do you think it's better for Sancho to leave in this window?
I think at this point it's probably best for him and Manchester United, especially the fact that, he went to Dortmund. You know, he had 14 appearances, 2 goals, but it was more of the impact that he had for the side. You know, he almost lifted the spirits, and he was a part of the guard that got them to the Champions League final. But then when he came back, you know, he had a decent pre-season, played in a few positions. But then the season starts, only plays 7 minutes in the Community Shield. Amad Diallo is obviously the clear favourite in that position. On the left-hand side, it's basically untouchable, because if it's not Rashford, it's Garnacho, who's proven that, you know, he's ready to start week in, week out. And for him, I think at this point in his career, he's going to want that game time. He's going to want to play a big part or just have the opportunity to prove himself. And I think in Ten Hag's system, he's never really got it going as much as he would have wanted to. And obviously, he'd still want to have a point to prove. But if there's a better team, i.e. Juventus, that makes sense, I think he would be keen on going.
We know that he could be on the move then. What about other outgoings?
Well, United have been really busy in terms of outgoings, but not of essential players so far. Aaron Wan-Bissaka probably the biggest sale, £15 million. We know Mason Greenwood's gone. He wasn't seen as part of the future at Manchester United. Napoli, they're expected to push for the sign of Scott McTominay in the final days of the window. The complication is they probably need to sell players before they buy. So United are willing to listen to offers for McTominay, but I don't think they're going to sanction a move unless McTominay makes it clear that he's ready to move on in search of first-team minutes. So the final decision will be left to him. We know that United turned down 2 offers from him, from Fulham for McTominay. I think Erik ten Hag really likes what he offers in an advanced area of the pitch. So I think if United are able to have a significant outgoing, whether it be Lindelof, some good money, I know he's injured at the moment, or McTominay or Sancho, it really helped them do that permanent deal for Ugarte.
All right, that's enough from you, James, because we have got Mikel Arteta on the way live. We'll also bring you the thoughts of Eddie Howe as Newcastle close in on a move to sign Mark Guéhi. Right, we're going to get to Mikel Arteta shortly, but let's talk about another Mikel, Merino. Why not? OK, this deal is in principle with Real Sociedad to sign the midfielder Merino. The fee is in the region of around £32.6 million. That's £28.4 million, plus there might be 4.2 in performance-related add-ons, right? Do we think this is going to be what helps them get over the line?
Possibly, but then I thought that about Leandro Trossard
That's really underwhelming,
as well.
Dave. Really built that up.
Say yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, could be. Manchester City are a machine, though, aren't they? You know, I think Arsenal have improved their points tally 4 seasons in a row. I think, I might be wrong, but I think if they do it 5 seasons in a row, that might be a record. And so it's so hard to just keep going and going and going, particularly when you've got Manchester City, who are such a formidable opponent, really.
Yeah, and especially when you've got, we're saying Merino against Gundogan. These two think Merino's going to outshine Gundogan.
That's why I thought that you guys were going to be 100% yes, because you think that they're, you know, that's the final piece. But I genuinely think that they're going to be challenging anyway, because we've seen under Arteta, they've been very consistent. Like you said, they're improving year on year. I do think they are missing a striker. I think Havertz could be a player that, yes, fills that void, and yes, he did well last season, and if he plays there this season, he could improve. But at the same time, I've spoke to a few Arsenal fans. I've seen how they're feeling as well. We know how City are. They've got Erling Haaland, who can get them out of any situation. I think they need that mould of a striker. Whether he's available in the window or not, he might not be, but I still think that that's the piece that they're missing.
So is that what the Arsenal fans that you've been speaking to have said, that they want a striker?
Yeah, but also they're still happy with the side that they have, because, you know, they've got Saka, who will always get double-digit goals and assists, Havertz, who's looking consistent. I think that left-hand side isn't as consistent as it's probably been in the past with Martinelli and Trossard, but yeah, striker that is guaranteed goals.
OK, well, let's bring you the thoughts, shall we, of the Arsenal manager, Mikel Arteta. Let's go live now to his press conference.
No, and you know that I cannot talk about any player that is not with us. There's still time in the market, both ways, for all the managers, for all the teams here, and you can tell how busy it's getting.
Can we assume it's something that is going to happen soon?
I don't assume. The full focus is on the players that we have at the moment, the big match that we have tomorrow against Aston Villa, and that's where we're at.
I think I'm going to get a similar answer, but I'm going to ask about Eddie Nketiah leaving the club as well, and there's interest from Nottingham Forest. Do you expect Eddie to go over the next week?
I expect Eddie to train with us today to be prepared for tomorrow, and that's it. And whatever happens, it will happen if it's good for everybody.
Moving on, I assume you've always had belief, but when you look at the squad now, do you see belief that maybe wasn't there 2 years ago? It was a bit of a surprise. Arsenal were in the title race 2 years ago. You obviously got a lot closer last season. When you look at your players now, do you sense that they feel it's their time?
I always had a feeling and belief in our players that we have to trust them. I have to trust them. You know, that's the only way to get the best out of your team, out of your individuals, and we always have them. Is to achieve one level, that's something else, you know. But obviously, we know what we want, and it's not the thing that perform at the highest level every game to earn the right to win it. And tomorrow is no difference. It's the second game, and this is what we're going to do.
And obviously, Aston Villa were the only team to beat you twice last season. What was it that they did particularly well against you, or that you couldn't work out against them?
They scored and we didn't. Very simple. In 2 games, even though we had enormous amount of chances to do that, and that was one of the big differences. There are the details for sure that we have analysed, and we'll have to do better tomorrow. But yeah, and because they are a really good side, really well coached.
What makes them particularly difficult to play against?
They dominate every aspect of the game, you know. You give them a space to run, they are phenomenal. When they have no space and they have to find spaces, they're able to do that. And in restart set pieces, they are at it. That's why they did what they did.
Just finally from me, 4 of the Premier League managers now are all Basque.
Yeah.
What makes Basques
big community? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean 20% of the Premier League managers are
go to
Basque.
San Sebastian and then come back and then ask me that question. You all have to go there because it's a beautiful place, beautiful
great
city, great restaurants, great food, great culture.
What makes you such good football managers though?
Probably the passion and the education that we all got, and then yeah, we all need opportunities and chances. Someone has to believe in you. I think what Unai and Julian did for us is incredible because they set the standard so high. They won a lot. The way they coached the team, the way they represented the clubs, it was at the highest level. So I think that gave a platform for the youngest one like myself, like Xavi, like Andoni, probably to end that curiosity, say, okay, maybe there are coaches here as well. So I think we have to be very grateful to those two.
Do you and Andoni and Julian and Unai have a WhatsApp group or anything?
No, we don't. Thank you.
Okay, Sarah from KLP.
Hello.
Timber replaced Zinchenko against Wolves for a short time, and he really showed what you've been missing, like aggressive, ball carrier, winning all his duels. With Calafiori added to the squad, can we expect at any point to see him be used as like a midfield alternative as well?
Yeah, he is. He can play in various positions. His versatility is one of the biggest strengths. Obviously, we missed him for 11 months. It's great to have him back. He played some minutes, quality minutes the other day, like Alex did as well. But I think Alex was really good as well, especially in the first 60 minutes against Wolves. And having that capacity in the squad to turn things around and find other things that the team is needing in that moment, I think is something very valuable.
Players have spoken a lot about how effective you've been in getting the team in the right state of mind. They said this pre-season felt very different mentally as well. How has it been for you mentally as a coach to go through these seasons, develop the project, develop the squad, and keep everyone resilient and yourself ready?
It's great. It gives you so much energy. In our jobs, every day is something new, someone you want to unveil and try. The players give you so much information, so much to think about. And we have a staff, they're all curious, they all want to get better, they all want to evolve. And this is why transformation happens, because everybody's in the same page on that.
And Declan Rice, he said his best position is a 6, but he loves and gets excited playing as an 8. So, in his Arsenal career and future, do we expect to see him as both and develop as both, or do you see him as a 6?
I think so. And at his age, I think it would be a big mistake not to do that and not to have the capacity to play in different positions. And then within the game, he will have a different role in relation to the opponent as well and what they do. And last year he showed that he has the ability to shift from one game to the other, sometimes in the same game, and to have players like that with the shortest squad that we have is really important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
First away game of the season this weekend. No team took more points than Arsenal in the last 2 seasons away from home. How much confidence can a record like that, past performance, give the team before going to something like that?
That we've done it. That's the confidence. Now we have to show it again, and tomorrow we have to go there. Obviously, with that belief, being very clear what we want to do and what we have to do to earn the right to win the game. And we'll certainly try to do that again.
One on the guy Saka, he's one away from 100 Premier League wins already at the age of 22. I mean, he can break all sorts of records in his Arsenal career. Is that something that you think he's motivated about, those numbers, and do you use that to challenge him?
That's a question for him. Obviously, when you look at those numbers at his age, is very, very special, especially in the position that he plays. You said a different position that can be more consistent like that, but a rare thing to see, and big credit to him.
Great to hear from Mikel Arteta live there. Great to hear from him. Keeping his cards close to his chest regarding Mikel Merino and Eddie Nketiah. Well, there is plenty of transfer speculation concerning Newcastle right now. They take on Bournemouth on Super Sunday. We can hear from Newcastle boss Eddie Howe.
Big game to look ahead to, but firstly I want to ask you about Kieran Trippier, because there's been quite a bit in the media about Trippier's future over the last couple of days. From your point of view, what is the situation with him?
Yeah, the situation is business as usual. Trips has trained really well this week. I'm surprised at a lot of the stories that have come out. A valuable member of the squad. His professionalism has been first class. He's trained really well since he's come back from the Euros. I think he's only had 2 weeks training, hence the decision to not start him at the weekend. And also Tino's had a very good pre-season. And yeah, that's the situation. He continues to be really valued by all of us.
So has he expressed a willingness to leave or a desire to stay?
No, but neither. He hasn't had to. So he's just trained as normal. And he's been, as I said, very good. So yeah, I'm not really sure where this has come from, but yeah, he's preparing as we all are for the game on Saturday.
And you'll be happy then, but like Miguel Almiron, when you talked about him last week, if when the window closes next Friday night, he is still a Newcastle player.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think you want, from my perspective, you want as many players as fit and as available to select from. You want as quality group as you can, as Kieran certainly fits into that. He had an outstanding first season with us last year, slightly disrupted by injury at the end of the campaign. But his leadership skills, his ability with the ball, his assist record, everything that he brings to the group, we definitely want here.
At this point, how closer are you, do you feel, to a transfer happening, in or out?
No, there's no news, and I am a step removed from it, so it's always difficult for me to give you definitive answers, but I'm aware that there's still work going on behind the scenes, but training and preparing for Bournemouth has been as normal, and I'm not getting regular updates, so what will be will be.
Onto the football, and I think this will be the third time that you've taken Newcastle back to your old club, Bournemouth. I wonder how it has changed for you as an experience going there, because there may be less focus and less attention on you now going back there than there was perhaps the first time you went.
Yeah, I mean, I think, of course, it's a fixture that means a lot to us as staff because of our length of time with the football club. But I think it's never been any different. When you turn up for a game, you're there to win, and you're there to give your best and try and do everything you can to get an all-important 3 points for us currently, and that will never change. That never has changed. I think hopefully the focus is on the game. It should be on the players that we have and their players, and competing against each other for what is in a really important stage of the season, because we have to try and start well. We have to get momentum in our season, and we're thinking of nothing else but that, really.
And they lost Dominic Solanke earlier this summer, but they started the season with a point at a late draw against Nottingham Forest. What have you made of that match and how they played?
Well, I think just going back to last season, I think we had 2 really tough games against them. I think they're a very good team. I think they've got outstanding attributes within their team. Very quick, athletic side. Will hurt you on transitions if you're not set up well, you're not organised properly, or you're loose with the ball. So I think that athleticism has served them really well. Very aggressive, high-pressing team. You can see from the stats they're right up there with the best teams in the Premier League in that respect. So we're not fooled by how difficult this game can be, and especially at the Vitality Stadium. So we need to be better than we were on the road last year. This is a challenge this is our first challenge in trying to hit that target for us. So we're looking forward to the game at the weekend.
Last one on Lloyd Kelly, who I'm sure will be really eager to play, especially after coming on for his debut last weekend. Didn't have a lot of football in pre-season. What sort of condition is he in, and is he ready to start if you need him to?
Yeah, I think he's in good condition. I think he didn't have a lot of match action in pre-season, which is always difficult. I think he trained for, I think, roughly around 3 weeks towards the end of pre-season, and trained really well, and I think he's made a really positive impact with the group. I've been really impressed with his performances. I thought he did really well when he came on at the weekend in a difficult situation for us. I thought he defended really well, so I think he would say he's ready, and certainly he's pushing for a starting place.
Just 7 days to go in the transfer window. Coming up, we have picked 7 players who could be on the move before the deadline. Stay with us. Just 7 days to go now in the transfer window. We have picked 7 players to keep an eye on. Ilkay Gundan today has been finalising his move to Manchester City in the UK, and this could get announced soon. Now, there were plenty of midfielders, weren't there, linked in this transfer window. Gundogan, is that the best outcome? Although you probably think Marino, don't you?
I love Ilkay Gundogan. What a servant he's been to Manchester
City. Oh, you've changed your tune.
7 seasons. The only reason he's not there now is because Man City didn't offer him a 2-year contract last year, otherwise he'd still be there now. I mean, he's turns 34 in October. I think City, after losing Julian Alvarez, were in a situation where they'd like to bring in someone who can help support Erling Haaland, but also midfield, somebody who can maybe support Rodri. But they were looking for targets that wouldn't be concerned or not happy not playing many minutes, and these players that they wouldn't get to contribute every week. But someone like Ilkay Gundogan, I think, will accept his role in the team. It may be 20, 30 minutes off the bench each game, and he's aware he may not play as much as he has done in recent seasons. But the fact that he knows everything about Manchester City, has worked under the manager for 7 years, means the integration period, there simply won't be one. And he's a great player to bring in, whilst maybe next summer they look at potential big money signing to try and strengthen the ranks again.
He's like that suit that you think you've grown out of, and then suddenly you put it back on and you fit in it, and you go,
this little overshirt.
I'm not there yet.
You kind of forget how good you look in it. It's like, it's just the perfect fit again, isn't it? That suit for Ilkay Gundogan, that Manchester City shirt.
What an analogy from you, David. Right, we've got Raheem Sterling here as well. We know that he's training alone, and they're interested. Parties are interested, and they're looking at these offers as well for him. Ben Chilwell as well, looking for a new club. How do you see this playing out?
I mean, they've got to go, haven't they? Just for their own careers, their own sake, I guess. You know, they've been told that they're not going to be getting minutes in the team, and with 7 days to go, they are short of time. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So I think for Raheem Sterling, he will have an idea as to the sort of level that he would like to play at, and now it's trying to find a club that will fit that. And I think, everyone's going to have to make compromises at this stage. Chelsea are going to have to make compromises on a fee. Sterling's probably going to have to make compromises on a wage that he would take. And maybe even a loan option might end up being on the table, given that we're so short of time and negotiating time is at a premium.
Yeah, and where they made it so clear that these players aren't a part of Enzo's plans, I think they've almost given themselves not the short straw, but it's like, OK, cool. Whichever teams come in, you have to negotiate with them, you have to speak to them, you have to almost meet them where they want to be met, because you know that having these players, it's going to create a toxic environment, regardless of whether they're training apart. These players are friends. They're speaking to each other, they know what's happening with each other's situations, they respect each other, especially someone like Sterling and Chilwell, who have been a part of Chelsea for the last few years. Chilwell was one of the only players that's recently won with Chelsea. Sterling's won so much. Yeah. So, these players are going to be seeing that, and the longer they are at the club, I think the more negative it gets around their situations.
Yeah, definitely. We got Lukaku on here as well. Now, Napoli sporting director Giovanni Manna met with Chelsea executives in London, but the clubs aren't able to reach an agreement for Romelu Lukaku. Sky in Italy described this one as a complicated meeting. The payment structure of the deal is apparently the biggest stumbling block. Do you think we could see Lukaku flourish under Antonio Conte?
Well, yeah. I think the last time they were working together. You know, he scored 24 goals in the league. They won Serie A together. That was probably the best Lukaku we've seen in recent years in terms of his form, how consistent he was, the motivation he had. And where there's a manager like Antonio Conte coming out and speaking about how Napoli are and, you know, not feeling like they've done enough, and we saw their first result in their first game in Serie A, Conte almost sees him as like the missing piece. So if you're a player coming into that situation, you're going to be thinking, I want to prove to, you know, everyone that I am that missing piece. And I think we've seen from Lukaku that he likes having that almost the narrative around him. So yeah, I think he'll thrive there.
Now, Everton have spoken with Newcastle about a possible loan move for Kieran Trippier. Eddie Howe earlier saying this news is a surprise to him. He's training, business as usual. He's given a lot to Newcastle. That's just it, my question.
That's the question. He certainly has. I think, look at where Newcastle were when he joined. They were in the bottom three when he signed 2.5 years ago. And think of all the success they've gone on to have, playing in the Champions League last season. I think it's clear that because of the pre-season that Tino Livramento had and the lack of pre-season that Kieran Trippier had, it gave Livramento that edge. But one thing Eddie Howe said when we spoke to him a few moments ago, he said he hopes that Trippier stays. Trippier clearly wants first team minutes. He turns 34 next month, but he's still got 2 years left on his contract. But in terms of the job he's done for Newcastle, I mean, it probably goes too far to say he deserves a statue, but he's done a huge amount to get the club from where they were to the next level now, where the fans believe they can do something special over the course of the next few years.
I think it's interesting what we heard there from Eddie Howe, because I think certainly June, July time around pre-season, it felt like there was a slight bit of tension in Eddie Howe's voice when he was talking about incomings and outgoings. He pretty much made it clear that, you know, he didn't really want to let go of Elliot Anderson. It was just down to PSR. And there's been a lot of changes off the pitch this summer for Newcastle. New sporting director, you know, Amanda Staveley, who was a big backer of Eddie Howe, has left the club now. And I just wonder, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it felt like the manager was saying there, news to me, I'd like him to stay, when from our understanding is that actually Everton have made an inquiry for him.
I think they're also entering a new guard as well. Looking at the links with Mark Gahey, his age, obviously Sven Botman being 24. You look at left back with Lewis Hall, Livramento now coming into his own. He's still very young. I think this is like a good transition for them to, you know, move forward with the younger players. Still have a few of the other players that are a bit older, in Fabian Schär, Lascelles, Dan Burn as well, Matt Targett. And I think it makes sense, but obviously, like you said, he's been an incredible servant for them, and he's been a big part to them being at this stage.
Right, a few updates to bring you. Manuel Ugarte and Carlos Soler have both been left out of Paris Saint-Germain's squad for tonight's league game against Montpellier. So talks between Manchester United and PSG over a deal for Uruguayan midfielder Ugarte are at an advanced stage. West Ham have also had talks with PSG about signing Spanish midfielder Soler, but Ugarte and Soler both been left out of Paris Saint-Germain's squad for tonight's league game against Montpellier. Right, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Good Morning Transfers will be back after the weekend. Monday, 9 o'clock sharp, we'll be here, and plenty more to come from us today. Transfer Talk will be here at midday. And as usual, you have got a full roundup of the day's news on the Transfer Show at 5 and 7 this evening. OK, coming up, it's Total Football with Vicky Gomersall. We're going to hear from a host of Premier League managers next. Stay with us on Sky Sports News.